All right, so for our final guest of the semester, we are joined all the way from Houston, Texas by a technical engineer with Logix Business Solutions there in Texas, Christa Johnson. As always, we thank you so much for joining us. We're in the STEM career cluster, and I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, recording this for all of our friends at Madison Central High School, Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So as always, we appreciate you taking some time for us today.
Hey, everybody. Definitely. Thank you, Greg. It's
Now,
always a
now before
pleasure.
now before we get into everything, we have to always mention how crazy and how small the world is
Very
because
small.
You're from Chicago, and you went to
Hmm.
the same high school as our friend Coach Martin, who was with us here at Velma Jackson for several years, and now is at another school. But it's just crazy that both of y'all went to the same high school in Chicago. Then your aunt lives down the street from me in Flowood. So it
That's
is
right.
absolutely crazy how small the world is when you really put your footprint out there and see it for yourself. So that is just such an amazing thing that somebody that lives 7 hours away has such a great connection to us here
Oh,
in
yeah.
Mississippi. All right,
Yes,
so
Mississippi is
yeah.
definitely a second home for me since I was born. So, yes.
All right, so before we get into what all it is you do, you have a different path into engineering,
Yes. Yes.
and you didn't do you didn't do the traditional college route. You did obviously get some post secondary education, but it didn't wasn't the same path that you might think or that other people did. So uh, take us back coming from Chicago, and then how all those steps went.
Well, thank you, Greg. As a matter of fact, I love having these conversations with you guys and talking to your students and answering as many questions as possible. Um, as you know, as you said, I have not taken the traditional route. The route that I took was based on passion and based on just, I knew what I wanted, but it wasn't like being impatient. So I went to a vocational high school. And as you said, Coach Martin went to Chicago Vocational Career Academy, which is in Chicago, Illinois. And it's one of the biggest and best vocational schools listed in the country right now. They do all types of, you know, majors and courses and college courses for you to walk out of there with any type of certification that you could possibly have imagined. I have friends who are nurses. I have friends who have been hairstylists because we had a salon in the school. Like I walked out with certifications for A plus, C plus plus back then, a couple of Cisco's to start before I even turned 18, which was
Wow.
really awesome because you had that hands-on training right there, and you had experience, educators, and also they branched out to others just like you're doing now to mentor us and to talk to us and to help us understand what the field is like. Afterwards I did go to a technical institute and receive my associate's degree, and when I received that associate's degree, I also updated a lot of my certifications then, which led me, and it's funny because a lot of people may not believe this or think, but I was one of the original Geek Squad members at Best Buy. So when the Geek Squad started, and they had the cute little Beatles, and I'm sure it was a lot before you guys were born, and you guys see the bands, but I was a geek. I was one of the original geeks at Best Buy during college, which gave me an opportunity to work hands on with a lot of the products that was in the store, that was outside the store. When I worked with a technician, I would be able to go into the field and actually go into customers' homes and help install, help repair, because I already had some of that knowledge, but I also bridged it with working in a retail environment. Afterwards, I moved into Sprint, which is now T-Mobile, when there were technicians inside the store. So I was one of the technicians that was in the back that pulled the phones completely apart. What they do now at You Break, I Fix, I've done it. So I've pulled phones apart, put them back together. I've worked on any and everything from military devices to some of the original smartphones. And I'm sure a lot of your students may not remember from when iPhone first came out, like the fours and the threes and things like that. And they were pretty thick. So on top of it, but I was also Apple certified to repair and and replace those devices as well, which was really cool and rare back then. Afterwards, I worked at Walgreens. And a lot of people think, working at Walgreens, you're working in the stores, you're working in the pharmacies. No, they have technical, issues too. And so as an engineer there, I actually helped install some of the original Google Pays in the store and help the programming for that because it was a part of a mobile device. Also, I helped a lot of the upper, management, CEOs, CFOs, learn how to use their new cell phones because no matter how much money you make, sometimes you think, you may have to learn just a little bit more. And that was an awesome time because I got to show them what I learned and I got to show them and give the gift of knowledge, which definitely is always a passion of mine, which led me to bring myself over to Verizon, which I worked in the technical support department when customers would call in and they weren't happy. But it was my job to turn that around and to further assist and fix. And I was able to virtually resolve so many issues. Also, once again, give the gift of knowledge to that person so they don't have an issue repeating again, but also they've learned something, they carried it on, and they've given that knowledge to someone else, which again, led me to one of my dream positions in being a network engineer for Verizon, where I got to work inside the network. And during that time, I gained more access, more information, learned how the network worked. I worked at NRG a couple of times where when 5G was being built into the stadiums. So I actually learned about the methods to that. I worked on router builds, I've switched networks, I've installed, uninstalled, and ladies, trust me, don't let the nails fool you. I always have a manicure and I always get the job done. So don't worry about that. Definitely enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah, because it's always funny. People are like, they get mad about calls dropping, and then they're at a game and get mad they can't get service. Well, you were one of the people that was working on those towers in the Houston area and putting those 5G devices inside NRG stadiums. So during the Texans games and things like that, people
Yes.
were still able to make calls and get data. And then obviously one of the largest metropolitan areas in the world, you were in the
Mhm.
towers and you love the pictures of you in the hard hats. Like, look, I'm a girl and I'm building this network.
Exactly. So, don't let the fact that, you're a woman or you're a guy that you may not feel like you fit into that category. Anybody can do it. If it's a passion for you, you definitely can. And it's a great, great and rewarding opportunity. Now I am a technical engineer for Logix fiber networks, which I deal with more so of the landline side now, where I am. I manage the network from the inside, so I don't have to go in the field anymore. Unfortunately, but fortunately, but I also monitor the networks here and make sure that we refrain from any outages, any problems. Also, if there's an issue with another carrier that affects us, if we have a major power outage or a fiber cut, we actually handle those situations and we do everything we can to resolve them. So I'm one of the first points of contact, and I try to do my best to get it done.
Well, yeah, and we watched a couple of videos on Logix
Mhm.
about it's completely Texas based and they're really big on customer service because let's face it, this is a very competitive field. So
Mhm.
obviously we aren't discouraging people to not go to college, but we all are all about giving people options. If nothing, I
Yes,
think I can speak
definitely.
for all the other teachers. We want everybody to weigh all their options on what's best for them. And like you said, based on passion, based on skill, based on finance, based on time. So,
Mm-hmm.
someone like you that didn't do the traditional college route and just got the certifications. We have great community colleges here in Mississippi that can get you a 1-year certification and immediately get into the field and start getting experience and start getting money. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to places like Logix, obviously you guys have a good mix of people with the degrees and people that have the certification. So what are
Definitely.
some of the other jobs that you see in the field and out of the field that may just need a certification or an associate's to get into?
Actually, our field technicians, our field technicians are um, our provisioning groups. Like it's a lot of options and opportunities. Even like I said, an engineer position with me, you can definitely do that. Um, and like you said, not to discourage anyone from going to college, because college is always a great experience, great opportunities, and things of that nature. But also depending on where you are, because you can always return to college. You can always
Yeah.
go back. Um, but the thing is that it's great to still have your certifications. And a lot of times when you get into these companies, a lot of the companies pay not only for your certification, but they pay for the education when you decide to go back to school. So that's what I'm working with Logix. I'm actually working on new Cisco certifications that are being paid for by the company, which further, assists me in progressing within the company and the organization. But also, if I wanted to do something different, I have opportunities to do so as well, and it gives me the chance to actually train also. So I'm doing training certifications, and for a lot of people who have other concerns about the college experience, as far as like, what if I wanted to get into a sorority? You have to have a degree, you have to have this certification, and you have to meet certain criteria. Yes, you do, but also look into a lot of the D9 auxiliaries, because there's a lot of organizations. For example, I'm a member of Zeta Phi Beta's auxiliary, Zeta Amici, which are friends of Zeta, where we still have the same organization. We focus on service, we focus on sisterhood, we focus on family, but also we focus on building each other up, because there's not one person left behind, and there's other organizations that has those type of communities that help you build as well. So you don't ever feel like you don't belong. It's just that you may belong in a different part of that organization and in that community too.
Yeah. Now, and also, and I know you've been with several technical companies, and I think, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you mentioned that about Walgreens too, because engineering and technical people are not just in engineering and technical firms. Literally, pretty much every big company that you see has technical people. They have IT people. They have engineers, because even though they aren't a technical or engineering company, they have databases to manage. They have servers
Mm-hmm.
to manage. Obviously they're going to have some sort of network to manage, especially if they're trying to communicate between stores, communicate between servers. And
Mm-hmm.
like at Logix, the big selling point on Logix is we deal with business because of the amount of data and transactions that are constantly coming through. So
That's right.
really look into that. Walmart's uh, Walmart's technical department might be as big as their sales department. It really is
Yeah.
one of the, it's a field that's not going away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in working in these companies, what are some other type skills that you've seen as far as maybe somebody that has a trade? Because obviously, if somebody's out in the field, that's people that like working with their hands, that like to work with machines. So, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously, those are needed and they pay really well. So, what are some of the trades you've seen in these technical companies?
A lot of them that I've seen are technical, as far as electrician, even something as simple, and some people consider CAD writing. So, we have to write scripts, we have to write programs, we have to build certain parts of the network. So a lot of the writers, the builders, they're here. Also, just general contracting from other, companies come into Logix to work, because of the simple fact that they worked in telephone communications, they worked in telephonics. So it's something as simple as electrical, heating, air conditioning, everything. If there is a computer, there is something that is involved from another field to build that computer. So, you got to keep the core cool. You got to keep, devices cool in order for the systems to run. So, yes, there's a lot of heating and air trade employees in the company because of the
Wow.
simple fact if something happens and it overheats, it could be a fire. So let's prevent the
I
fire
never
from
thought about
happening
that.
by keeping everything cool. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I know a lot of my friends who um, work in heating and air and have major contracts with a lot of these companies because you got to keep the network going, but the network will overheat. And a lot of people don't realize
Wow.
electricity produces heat, and then sparks can happen if it's not controlled. So, yeah, definitely.
Well, I never thought about that, especially, here in Mississippi, and I know in Houston, it gets so dang hot.
It
If you're
gets
an
hot.
HVAC person, you can make a lot of money. And I'm glad you mentioned the CAD writing because Holmes Community College here, right down the road, has an associate's in drafting that
Mhm,
translates into a lot of these engineering fields. And if you want to pursue that, you can. But a lot of these companies would rather have somebody that just has that associate's in drafting. They've got some engineering and CAD experience and they're ready to roll and they've gotten experience with a brand new technology. So,
mhm, yeah,
again, really want to push these different options for young people because people, I have kids tell me all the time, well, I want to go to college, but I can't afford it. I want to work in this field, but I don't want to spend 4 years going to college. If that's
mhm.
the case for you, that's fine. There is a place for you in this field, and this field is not going away.
Exactly. It's not going away. It's elevating. It's expanding. I mean, if you look at it, there's fiber companies that are coming up left and right all over the place. There's communication companies that are rebuilding and rebranding everywhere and they're branching off. I mean, if you look at the history of telecommunications, AT&T used to be a monopoly that had to break up. So think about it. If they had to break up, how many companies within that company can you work for? Can you, make an impact to? Not just in telecommunications, but also look at it from other perspectives. Like we talked about earlier, I worked at Walgreens. Walgreens. A lot of people don't see that. They're like, Walgreens? Did you fill prescriptions? I said, no, I actually built a network. And that's the thing. When people see that, they see other opportunities within companies. So when you're looking at certain companies, yes, it's cool to look at something to get you in the door, but also research the opportunities that they have for you. Because a lot of times while you're investing your time to work every day, they could be investing back into you with certifications to rebuild because a lot of companies are looking for longevity now. They're not just looking for, employment, but they're looking for steady employment and longevity with that company because they're investing in you just like you're investing in them. So if they can give that to you, definitely make it a partnership worth your while.
Absolutely. Now, before I get to the
Hmm.
students' questions, obviously we got to talk about you're a triple minority in
Yes.
in a field that and just like every other field is really looking to diversify. Times have changed since the 60s where there was a limit on what women could do, there was a limit on what minorities could do, and and open LGBT discrimination. All those times have changed. So members of all those communities really have opportunities now. And you were one of the, you've been in that and you've outspoken about getting all those groups involved in STEM
Hmm.
because with technological advances, with the way companies have changed, with the way companies are hiring, they're really looking to diversify. And it's not, and you hear the media always says, well, they're just doing this to appease this group, and that's not the case.
Right.
We had a guest in another class that talked about, and I never thought about this, and that this just shows why this needed. She talked about how when only one group is at the table, things are missed. It's not that they're
That's
racist,
right.
it's not that they're evil, it's not that they're bad people, but things are going to be missed because they don't have experience as people of those groups. So that's why we
Exactly.
need women to get into this. We
Hmm.
need young black kids, young Asian kids, Hispanic kids. We need
Hmm.
because we have some Spanish speakers that'll see this. We have some first generation Americans that'll see this later. We need them to get involved in this And then obviously
Definitely.
you remember the LGBT community, and we need them to get involved in
Mhm.
this as well. We really need
Yeah.
everybody to be represented at the table when it comes to this field. So talk about your experience in, really pushing the envelope as a member of all those groups. Even though Houston's a great diverse city, the field itself really hasn't been until recently.
Definitely, definitely. It has not been until recently. And a lot of people may not understand. I was a lot of the only. So, like you said, it's not many people that's a triple minority in any field, let alone the engineering field. And so I was the only woman. I was the only Black person. I was the youngest. I was the member of the LGBTQ community. And it can be scary because, like you said, it's not the fact that anyone is racist or closed-minded. It's just that they miss things. They're not
Yeah.
they're not able to see it because they've never experienced it or they've never been around it. So they don't understand it. So it can make a very, very conflicting situation. And that's what leads me to be so proud about working with Logix, because I'm actually a part of their community outreach group called Together We Stand. And Together We Stand is their internal program that deals with diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, to where all creeds, all backgrounds, all demographics should be included in technology, in engineering, in just working together to build a better community. One of the credos that we follow is a part of Dr. Martin Luther King's beloved community speech, and also Dr. JFK. I mean, not Dr. JFK. I'm sorry, President John F. Kennedy. It's been a morning. President John F. Kennedy. His focus on the ripple effect. So Robert Kennedy, excuse me, it's early. So Robert Kennedy's ripple effect. When you put that pebble into the water and it creates a ripple, we want to create that ripple of hope, a ripple of change, ripple of opportunities, ripple of education to others that may not feel like they're fortunate enough to do so. And then also it gives us the opportunity to reach out to communities and bring in students and people who may feel like they've been overlooked. They may have the qualifications, but because of who they are and how they carry themselves, may turn a blind eye to others. And so it definitely makes a difference. So I am truly proud to be a part of that group as well.
Absolutely. And as you should be. It's really inspiring to see. But I do have some questions. I'll get to as many of these as I can. These are all ninth graders,
Sure.
and some of these are really good. So this first one is Jordan Job, and he asked, "What was your main motivation to choose getting into the engineering field?"
Oh, I used to get in trouble, Jordan. I used to get in trouble a lot, pulling things apart and putting it back together. So I just was intrigued as a kid at home. And, my mom was there, my dad was there, but they worked. And sometimes when certain, little tools, little things, remotes didn't work, I would break it apart. But then luckily, I would always be able to put it back together. And so that sparked something in me, literally, and also sometimes physically. It sparked in me to take advantage of those opportunities. You know, immediately when I saw that, Chicago Vocational offered the computer maintenance and assembly course and everything was hands on, I jumped into that. Even freshman year in my ninth grade, I took 4 weeks of aviation, heating and air conditioning. I took 4 weeks of wood shop. I took 4 weeks of even horticulture, because sometimes you have to learn the land that you're working on too. And it branched all together. And then when it was time for me to actually stay and pick my major, computer maintenance and assembly was a no-brainer. But because I had some of the other backgrounds, it just built that passion within me as well. So it enhanced a lot more. And it gave me a green thumb
Yeah,
working at horticulture.
yeah. And now, and you mentioned that, here in Madison County Schools, we have our career center that some of our students are a part of, and they're able to get
Mhm.
these certifications in high school. We have our IT program, we have our engineering and robotics, we have a new drone program. So these are fields they can get certified and experience in and start working right after high school. So again,
Mhm.
we're all about giving options, and it's important to look into all that. So that's really cool that
Definitely.
you're able to do that in high school. So um,
Yeah.
I know the answer to this one, but you didn't talk about this, so we'll go ahead and ask this one. This is London Jackson, member of our band here, and she asked, "What was the most challenging engineering project you've ever worked on?"
Ah, it was quite a few, but I may get you on this one. Working at NRG
Ooh,
was very challenging.
I
Yes,
thought it would
yes,
be the
yes, yes.
Hurricane Rita one.
Well, yes, that would be a tie.
Okay.
Working at NRG because, of course, NRG is actually a newer stadium. So a lot of the networking from the old stadium, they wanted to branch into both. So having to build that wireless bridge in a metropolitan area was a little physically scary for me because I had to climb some rafters and hang on and things like yeah, it was good, but it was scary. But I made it through. But I learned a lot as well. I learned a lot about being fearless in that one. When Hurricane Rita, especially my first year of being here in Houston and being in Chicago all my life, I didn't deal with hurricanes. I dealt with tornadoes. So it was
Yeah.
different, very different. So preparing my vehicles to work in that field, also preparing my vehicles to be able to provide service to those who lost service right there in that area. Because the cool thing about Verizon and other carriers is that we have vehicles that have satellites and have signals on them so that if there is an emergency, there is no service, we can actually dispatch that vehicle to that area and provide service for them to reach out to their loved ones and their family members to let them
Wow.
know, hey, we're okay. And so that was a challenge, but yet rewarding. So it was funny because I actually traveled after Hurricane Rita and was running through Louisiana. I was driving through and I saw my Verizon guys. And I was off for a couple of days after, Hurricane Rita. I had evacuated my family out, but I stayed. So I was bringing everybody back and I saw them and I just packed up lunches and I packed up food and made sure that my guys were eating, made sure that they were, well hydrated and everything else to rebuild that network to get it back up and running. So those were some of the most challenging, but also the challenge has a great reward too. So thank you for that question.
That's awesome. I like this one. This is William Clay, also a member of our band, and he asked, "What's the
Mhm.
most innovative change you have brought to your company's operations?"
I would say in Logix, it would definitely be some of the newer programming and newer steps to troubleshooting and communicating. Something as simple as troubleshooting, because a lot of people are like, oh, you just ask questions, you ask this. No, you have to actively ask. And sometimes, the system is not going to tell you everything. So, a lot of things in communication, just general conversation, will get you further than you clicking on a button and fixing something because that button may not be the resolution. It may be something a little bit more. So, that, and then also just being a part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion group here at Logix with Together We Stand. So those are some of the greatest achievements that I've had here so far. Um, and then also, working at Verizon, building the 5G network in an area that has never had 5G before, learning about old technology and how to remove it. So those are some of the best times ever. So sometimes it doesn't have to deal with the actual physical computer, and sometimes it does. And those are both great examples of what I've done.
Absolutely. Now, I love this question. This is Trayvon Willis, one of our football and basketball players here, and he asked,
Mhm.
"After not taking a traditional college route, how has your passion for your career led you to where you are now in pursuing your dream?"
Well, not taking the traditional college route, um, I started the traditional college route. I started, but I left because of a family emergency, which that happens.
Yeah.
My passion never changed because I knew this was what I wanted to do. I knew this was what I was meant for. And sometimes you have to learn to pivot. You've got to learn to, change that tune in a different way. But it doesn't mean that the song changes. It just means you played it differently in that sense. And it's a lot of times that you have to go with the flow of life because life can control you in those situations. But your passion, your drive, your energy, that is what is built in you. And if you know what you want and you are determined to keep going, continue to reach out to mentors, continue to reach out to companies, continue to do your research, focus on what you want to do because there's nothing that stops you but you. And you have to dig that within yourself. So it's your self motivation as well.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue to this question. This is Kelsey Burrell, one of our power lifters here. And she asked, how do you handle failure?
Oh, being very analytical. I have to be vulnerable at this. I don't handle failure well sometimes, but also I handle failure as a lesson. So I try not to look at it as me failing something because there's always an opportunity to learn from it, to change, to grow, and to move forward, to also correct. Because in a lot of ways in technology, doesn't mean the world is blown up. It just means that you may have to rewire something differently, and it's okay. And you learn from that, but then also you are able to give that gift of knowledge to others in that situation too. So it may not just be you that failed or that needs the lesson. Everybody around needs that lesson from time to time. So I don't look at failure as failure anymore and hold so much weight to it. I try to look at it as a lesson and something for me to learn from it because you're never going to walk into a situation knowing everything, being able to do everything. And my personal belief is that I learn something new every single day. There's an opportunity to learn something. And so if you put yourself in that mindset, you never fail. You never fail. You learn and you keep going from that point.
Yeah, and actually, for people that have had the computer science engineering class, which they had in middle school, they should know that failure is actually a part of engineering. It's actually part of the engineering design process is fixing your mistakes because engineers never get it right the first time. And I think I can speak
Yeah.
for all the other teachers, that we have kids like the first time they don't get it right, oh, this is too hard, I quit. In engineering, you're constantly putting a puzzle together.
That's right. That's right. And it's not, one of those fun little two-piece puzzles or, fun little Lego blocks. You're putting together thousands and thousands of pieces together. And, there's times where I've had situations where I've ran over 3 yards of fiber and something did not connect.
Oh,
Just so happens, yeah, I'm running halfway through football field, and things like that. And the fiber is not connecting. And then I have to retrace the fiber to find that there's a bend. And just so happens, because fiber is glass, that bend has cracked that fiberglass and I got to start over from scratch. So sometimes it's it's that process of elimination, it's that process of restarting. And in a lot of your computer sense, it's a reboot. And it's okay to reboot. It's okay to restart and join back in and correct where you went wrong or try to figure out where you went left instead of right. And it's okay.
absolutely. Well, I got one more, and it's funny because they asked the same question, so I'll give both of them credit for it. This is Kyman Dawson and Ashton Garrett, Ashton, one of our football players here, and they asked, "What is the biggest challenge facing your engineering team right now?"
Maintaining the network from other carriers. So
Ooh.
yes, yes. So a lot of times, even in construction, because that's another field that people can go into, construction workers will cut a fiber cable and shut a whole network down. And not just the network, but they're shutting phone services, they're shutting internet, they can even shut power down by not having the knowledge or having an accident or an incident to where we get called with plenty of alarms. So the one thing that we've taken a stance on is being ready for those types of disasters, even though you can never be 100% ready, but also having someone on standby. So if something does happen, and I don't know if you guys know, there's a number to call before you dig in a lot of places.
Yeah. Yeah, we have
You
it in Mississippi.
Right, you have it in Mississippi, you have it nationwide, where you have to call before you dig into the location so that you can be alerted from 811, from everyone saying, hey, this is being worked on, this is an emergency, this is a construction site, this is what's happening. So if something does happen, we're prepared for it. But a lot of times when that's not alerted to us, no one is prepared, and we've got to run right to that emergency and get our customers back up and running. So that's what we've been challenged with lately. But we've been in open communication with a lot of construction workers, a lot of our other carriers when they're doing repairs, so that we have the courtesy to work with them instead of fixing something that was broken unnecessarily.
I love it. Well, we're almost out of time, and as always, we're just so glad that you can fit us in your schedule. And actually, I learn something every time you're with us. This is like the fifth time you've joined us, and it gets better every time. But before we go, you're a great example of somebody that's become successful in an in-demand field with an in-demand career, and you didn't exactly go into it the way that society expects people to. But as these kids are getting through high school and transitioning out of high school into careers, why should they really think about getting into this STEM field? Because it really needs them, whether it's telecommunications or not. So what are some reasons, especially these young ladies, to get into this STEM field?
STEM is exciting. It's ever changing. To me, it's just watching things just evolve, watching the world evolve. I mean, think about it. They thought we would be using cell phones that were the size of bricks. And we did at one point. They were in the cars. My dad had one. But now the phones are everything for you. Your phone is your camera, your phone is your video recorder, your phone is your voice recorder, your phone is your phone, your phone is your text messaging. As we can see, we're zooming right now. We're having a conversation face to face without having to physically be there. The fact of the matter that technology is ever changing is a passion, is a drive, is a thirst for knowledge for me. And so to me, if you want to be a part of that change and you want to see that change, and you want to give that opportunity and that education of the change to someone else, I definitely go into STEM. I mean, it's to me, it's some of the best things ever. I work with my godsons whenever I go back to Chicago because he's in STEM. He's 15 and he loves technology. And so because he does, I jump right in it and give him whatever he wants. So we do STEM projects, we do robotics, we do whatever, because of the simple fact that he has that passion, but also he brings that over to his friends. Even in the automotive industry, you know, look at your vehicles, look at your family cars now. Your cars have CarPlay, they have Google Play, they have the navigation built in. Everything has a computer screen. Guess who had to do that? We did, the engineers.
Wow.
So there's so many different ways and so many different opportunities that you can work on, that engineering is a part of the backbone. And it's an amazing, amazing opportunity to work with. So that's my sales pitch for it.
I love it. Well, I know you got to get back to work. And again, we
Yes.
just thank you so much for joining us. And I promise I'm coming to Houston soon, and we'll get together.
And I'm coming back to Mississippi very soon, so I'll keep you posted.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you
All
very
right.
soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Christa Johnson,
Have a good
all the
one.
way from Houston, Texas. See you soon, buddy.
Yes. See you soon.
See ya.